Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the summer edition of Talking with Forest Park. We've got a full half hour here to discuss the topics that are important to you most. And at the roundtable first today, of course, as always, City Manager Ray Hodges. Ray?
Hello, Jason. Glad to be back with you again.
Glad you could join us, as always. Taking a little time for our summer break here, but we've got enough time to talk with a few good guests you brought with us.
Right, got some fantastic guests. We're going to start with Wright Gwyn in our environmental awareness area. It really is one that everybody should be aware of, and it's much broader than that. And for the sake of time, I'd like to introduce Wright, and he's got a lot of information to share with us.
Of course, Wright's no stranger to our table here, so glad you can join us once again.
Always a pleasure.
So we've got two parts to this. We've got the reforesting Forest Park, as well as keeping the recycling going here in the city.
Right. Those are the two big ones. But before we get to the two big ones, I'd like to go ahead and just give your viewers an update on what's happening in September.
Let's get that going, because this is going to run through that time, and maybe they can get some important information, get out and do these things.
Okay, the first thing that I want everybody to know is that we're going to have a used tire collection event. It's going to be Saturday, September 13th. From 9 to 2, it's going to be at the high school parking lot. Residents can bring, even people outside of Forest Park, if they hear about this, they can bring their tires, maximum of 10 tires per carload.
Okay.
And we'd like to have them off the rim, but just bring them. We'll throw them in a big 30 cubic yard dumpster and let Rumpke take them away. Free, there's no cost to it. It's a great time to get rid of all those used tires that have been sitting in your garage.
Now you're saying not just for Forest Park residents, but for all residents. Does this include Butler County or just Hamilton County?
Just Hamilton.
Okay,
Hamilton
that
County.
is important to know, because we do reach out there to other counties, so we want to make sure. Hamilton County only. That's again September 13th at the high school.
Right.
But you also have another thing coming up in September the 27th.
Right. It's called a drug take back event. It's a statewide. It might even be a whole countrywide.
I think you're right on that.
With that, it's a whole.
With that, I think
throughout
it
the
is
United
the
States.
United States. Yes.
This is our 6th time that we participated in this program, and the way that it's set up is that there are drop-off locations at different police departments at their police station. Forest Park, I'm working with the police chief and the police officers at Forest Park. They've been very open to this program, and so they've given officer for me to work with. He's going to be in charge of taking the drugs when they drop them off. All the residents have to do is come to the police station, give the drugs to the police officer. He'll put them in a box. They'll be locked down. They will be collected by official staff and then destroyed in an incinerator. But this is a great time to get all those used, expired, unwanted medications out of your house and destroyed properly. We don't want them flushed down the commode because it could cause some havoc with the aquatic systems.
Now, before we get into other things, the important thing for those who are wanting to participate in this, what's acceptable and what is not acceptable?
Okay, what is acceptable are prescription and over-the-counter drugs.
Okay.
That's pretty self-explanatory. We don't want liquids, syringes, or aerosols.
Okay.
We don't want those. But if you've got prescription or over-the-counter drugs, please bring them. It's going to be Saturday, September the 27th, and it's going to be from 10 to 2, and just drop them off at the police station in Forest Park.
And again, is this open to everyone? Or
everyone. Okay. Just bring it on by. Now, there are some permanent locations if you miss this event. The nearest one is Green Hills. I recommend people calling Green Hills just to make sure it's okay to bring them by, but they have a permanent drop-off facility there. Well,
it sounds like at least we'll get something going within this, as you're saying, cleaning out the old and bringing in something new.
Right. Like I've said, we've done it 5 times already, and we've almost collected a half a ton of medication.
That's amazing, and you're keeping it clean. You're getting it out and disposing of it properly.
Right. Exactly.
Well, of course, once we've cleaned everything out, we like to make sure everything grows back, and that kind of leads into your major important information for today.
Right.
You've been going through a program through the city that's been reforesting Forest Park, pretty much.
That's right. That is the name of the program. This is the 2nd year of the program. The first one was a pilot year. We learned a lot of what we can and cannot do to make this a successful program. I've worked with the Board of Directors, I've worked with Public Works on this, and many kudos both to the directors and to Public Works for helping me put this thing together. Basically what this is, the Board of Directors decided that we need an urban reforesting program. The reasons being, we have several infestations that are approaching our area.
Okay.
We already are infested with the emerald ash borer.
Correct.
People are seeing their ash trees dying. There's nothing you can do about it unless you treat it, and you have to treat your tree once or twice every 2 years or something like that, depending on what your treatment is. But your trees are pretty much done if you don't treat them.
Right. And these are infestations statewide.
Statewide.
Have been moving,
It's been moving
and we
through.
can see how it's moving and finally moves into this Hamilton County Forest Park area.
Right, and so people are going to have to cut down their trees. So that's one big infestation. The other one is the Asian longhorn beetle.
Okay.
Now, unlike the emerald ash borer who just likes ash trees, this beetle likes a variety of trees.
Oh, so we're being nondescript on this one. He goes for
Right,
anything.
he goes for a larger variety of trees. And they've spotted an infestation east of us, in the counties east of us, and it's a slow-moving insect, but my money is kind of on the insects. We can do a lot of things, but those insects, they somehow keep on moving. And and the only way that you can deal with this insect is just clear cut, because they like so many different kinds of trees. So we want to start bringing in a wider variety of trees into Forest Park, and hopefully more resistant to these infestations. And the third infestation that's coming down is north of us in Butler County. It's the only county in Ohio that has been identified for having it. It's the walnut twig beetle. And the beetle itself doesn't cause problems for the walnut tree. It's the fungus that's on the beetle, and it causes 1,000 cankers disease, and it kills the walnut trees. So we've got a lot of things around us that are just, could cause a lot of problems over the long term.
Sure.
So what we're trying to do is bring in a wider variety of trees at a low price to our residents, so we'll start replanting early and try to get ahead of this thing. There's not much that we can do about the infestations. We don't have the budget for it. But we can help the residents reforest their own yards and their own property.
Well, as you're saying, a lot of these, like the longhorn beetle, and I'm assuming the twig beetle as well, that you're going to have to completely remove the tree.
The tree will die.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't read exactly if there's a treatment for the Asian longhorn beetle. We know there's a treatment if you want to pay for it for your ash trees.
Sure.
But I haven't really been able to find what treatment it is for the Asian longhorn beetle, if there is one, or for the walnut twig beetle. I don't know about those.
So you're unfortunately looking at losing a tree one way or another.
Yeah, there's a good possibility.
If by chance people are losing that tree, obviously you are not assisting in the removal of the tree.
Right.
But you are assisting in the revitalization or the replanting.
The replanting. We will subsidize trees up to 75% for residents. So right now we will provide this year, this is our second year, which is going really well. Our goal was 100 trees.
Okay.
All 100 were reserved. They're 5 to 7 foot tall. There are 4 different varieties. We have 2 canopy trees, big canopy trees, bur oak and a tulip tree.
Okay.
And then we have 2 understory trees, smaller trees, and that's the eastern redbud, thank you, and the serviceberry.
Okay.
And all of them were reserved, okay? And the residents only had to pay like $6 or $7 for those trees.
And for that size, that's a great deal.
It's a great deal, and we'll cover the rest of the charge. We will also have the nursery bring it to Public Works, and then we'll divide it up, and we will deliver it to the resident's home. All the residents have to do is reserve a tree, pay their fair share for the tree, and be ready to plant it. We can't plant it, but they need to plant it, but we'll give them all the instructions that they need to plant the tree.
That is amazing. You're saying that last year everyone was reserved. Are we already in the reservation process?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've got 15 households that have already reserved for 2015. If more people want to reserve trees, just give me a call. I'll put them on the waiting list. They'll be the first ones notified when it's time next year. And then we'll go ahead, if they want to go ahead and sign up and write a check for their trees, that's great. Now this program, and this is what's really neat about this program, we see this as going on for many, 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 many years. It's not a one-year event. We know that these trees are going to be dying over the long term, therefore we're going to have to replenish over the long term. So we are right now going for about 100 trees, 150 trees a year, and we're hoping to do this 10, 12, 15 years in a row.
And again, by doing that, especially the size, to see the revitalization grow within, as you're saying, in that 10-year time span, you're already going to see that differentiation in that reforestation.
And each year we're going to revisit what species of trees we want to introduce. So we'll have a great, hopefully, but after 10 years, we'll have a great variety.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to bring up was the diversity in the trees. Do you think that was part of what's been causing a lot of these infestations, that we became very comfortable with, let's just, I'm trying to think of a Bradford pear, because you see a lot of those as you drive down, and of course, something's going to migrate to it a little bit more, but now you're looking at 4 different varieties.
Right, for this year.
For this year alone.
And we might change it next year, we might change it after that. I think we get very comfortable in the type of trees.
Fair.
You know, and for what uses each tree is for. So we, you know, we'll get another one and we'll get another of the same tree. I think ash tree is a great example. I think we had a blight of a certain type of tree, Dutch elm, I think, and then we brought in the ash to cover that hole. And so we've got a lot of ash trees. I rode through with Public Works staff, and they were pointing out houses that had 5 ash trees, big ash trees, and that's all they had. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
So we need to get a bigger variety of tree into Forest Park, and we need to get different heights, different flowering trees as all green trees. We need conifers. We need just to really kind of shake it up a little bit so that we'll have a bigger variety of trees. Just in case something comes in that's very specific to a tree, it won't hurt us as much.
And really to add to that, the Bradford pear, as you mentioned, it was actually probably overplanted years ago. Beautiful tree, but many of them have matured, and they have a tendency to have damage to them, wind damage and split and break and that kind of thing. And it's because of, you know, they've kind of reached that point in their life cycle. So this program here also helps that issue and brings more variety into the population. Again, some of these trees are, you know, maybe 50 years old or so, and they were just overplanted at the time. So it's the infestation, but it's also just the maturity of the trees and their life cycle itself. So good that Wright is involved in bringing more diversity in our tree population.
It's nice seeing, again, you look at the logo to the Forest Park logo, and it's 3 different types of tree right there. So, I mean, it's showing that idea that we're still continuing that revitalization and adding new to make it work.
And the neat thing is there are resources out there for every community to do something like this. We were working with Wendy from the state. She's with the ODNR, with the Forestry Division. And I'm working with our Forest Park Public Works, and we're working with volunteers on the board. So we're getting a lot of information. I mean, Wendy at the state office is sending us information about what to do. She helped select the trees that we're using.
I was going to ask, what was the deciding factor on some of these trees? I mean, did council have a little bit of say? Did you have a say, or where did the decision and the type of trees come in?
I put together a long list of different trees that I thought might be
Wright's favorites.
My favorites and everything. And I also did some research on the internet, and I shot them to Wendy up at the state, and I said, okay, now we want 4 trees, different varieties of trees. Which ones would you pick? We want some canopy trees, and we want some understory trees. And so she came out with these 4. And I said, great. And so next year, we're going to talk with her in February, say, okay, the bur oak, we only had, that was the least favorite. Maybe we need to replace the bur oak with another one to see what's going on. And then the year after that, we might replace maybe an understory and get something else in. But all in all, I'm very happy, and everybody seems to be eager for their trees. And we'll deliver those the 1st of October.
I was just going to say, that was the next question. For those who had already reserved, when did
Right,
this?
you're right. I'm going to email everybody about the middle of September, send them the planting information, say, okay, get ready. I am even going to the nursery next week to see the trees, talk to the people in charge over there and say, okay, this is what we're going to need. This is the time frame. Are we all set? So everything's going to be pretty much organized by the time October 1 comes around.
Well, it sounds like we will be seeing some new growth coming.
Oh yeah,
one
I'm
way or
excited.
another. That
I'm
sounds
excited,
great.
yeah.
Now, we do have a little bit of time left, so I do want to bring in one last bit of information, because, again, we could talk for hours, as we already discussed, but we do have some recycling opportunities here in the city that have been kind of cropping up, shall we say. We
Right.
had a brand new community drop-off center.
Right.
And how well received was that? I mean, you know, a lot of people are used to their curbside, but to have a place to go to actually do some community work for the community
Right.
actually makes a difference.
Right. I've always wanted to have a drop-off program because apartment complexes don't have them, churches don't have them, businesses really
is
don't
true.
have them, households have them.
Yeah.
You know, they can get curbside, but these other entities really don't have access to curbside recycling programs. So that's always been like a hole in our whole recycling component for the city. I remember talking with Ray a long time ago about things like this, and we weren't ready. I agree. We were not ready. But the time came where all of a sudden things looked good. Our contract, solid waste management contract, collection contract was going well. Our participation in our curbside was going well. We just had to reach these other people in the apartments and churches and businesses. And so we approached the Hamilton County Recycling and Solid Waste Management District. We got a grant to help pay for the facility. I worked with the building department in Forest Park, the public works department in Forest Park, and we designed what I think is a Cadillac of drop-off sites. It's in the municipal parking lot
Yes.
of the city
Of the
building.
city building.
You can't miss it. We have 2 6 cubic yard recycling dumpsters with a big sign of what's allowable to be put in there. And people can come by 24/7 and drop off all the recyclables. You don't have to sort. You just throw them in a bag where you are and put them in your car and take them to the places, dump them in the recycle, and we'll take care of it.
Right, and because of the location, you might comment that it's very convenient. You know,
Absolutely.
it's not a hassle for people to do
Right.
that.
Even we have a drive-off of the main road so that if a car goes by, they're not
They're not
in
blocking
traffic.
the drop.
They're not in traffic.
And again, it's easy. It's an easy place to remember. You're
Oh.
going to the city to drop off your recycling.
Right. And right now, we're filling 2 6 cubic yard dumpsters every week.
That's amazing.
It's great. It's great. I'm very excited, and it looks good. And I think it'll be a great addition to the recycling effort for Forest Park.
Do you foresee something like this spinning off, growing a little bit more? I mean, if you're taking 2 of those a week.
Well, if it gets larger, then instead of emptying it once a week, we'll empty it twice a week.
Okay.
That's what we do. We're not going to expand the actual
Actual
physical program, but we'll just empty it more often.
But right now, things
Right
are
now,
working as we had
everything is,
anticipated.
and it's only been going on for what, 2 months, 2.5 months.
That's amazing for just a program to have started so young to have already taken off so well. So it's obviously been well received. How did you reach out to places so that they knew exactly this was?
We've got it on the reader board. We put it in the progress, and I've also sent out. I've got like 1,600 email addresses. I sent that out to people, and we also did a direct mailing to all every apartment unit, every church, and every business in Forest Park, letting them know that if they want to use it, they're free to use it. There's no problem with it. This is what is appropriate for the dumpsters. You can bring it by at any time. And all of a sudden, you just saw it gather steam.
Well, I hope that it continues. You know, and unfortunately, I know this conversation is already gathering steam. And again, we could talk forever, but believe it or not, we are at the bottom of our segment here. I know if you want to get something in quick,
All right. We did
we'll let you.
a curbside recycling participation survey this summer. We do it every year. I drive around the routes every route 3 times to see who's recycling.
Okay.
Curbside recycling. I count the bins and mark off the addresses. I just want everybody to know that this year, From last year, we increased by over 500 households.
How do you feel in your estimation on that? How do you feel on that?
I think it's excellent because we signed a new contract in October 2013 that gave us an opportunity to reseed the area of houses that we found not to be participating, and we put in magnets and notes on the different types of containers. There are 3 different containers, 2 of them with wheels and a lid. If they want and this is what you would put in them, and so we gave them all this information, and from that we got over 500 new participants, households.
Amazing.
And so instead of 62% of all the households participating in Forest Park, now we're up to 71%, which is very high. And now with that, with the drop-off facility for the apartments, I think Forest Park is doing very well.
How would you say then, in comparison to Hamilton County, how do you say Forest Park fits as a recycling community?
I think the Hamilton County Recycling and Solid Waste Management District is very pleased with what Forest Park has done.
Well, something tells me if you're producing things like that, I think this man over here is really happy with the results
Well, I hope
you're
so.
doing.
I definitely hope so.
Well, but I think the key thing is it shows that it is a service need that is being fulfilled in this area. So we certainly thank Wright and his enthusiasm keeping this program going and elevating it to a higher level.
Absolutely. And again, with everything that we have encountered throughout all of the cuts and everything like that, recycling is able to stay and to show that the people still really want that as a part of their service here in the city.
And I get calls every day. The beauty of the way our solid waste contract is put together is people have to call me first before calling Rumpke or the Waterworks Company. And so I get to talk to them, and so if they need to order a trash container, that's fine. But then I say, well, what about recycling containers? Well, is it extra cost? No. Recycling in Forest Park is at no extra cost. In fact, you get to pick one of 3 containers. We'll deliver it to you. Just please do it. And so that in itself. And they said, oh, okay, sign me up. I'll take this container. I said, fine, it'll be delivered.
But see, there's an added benefit even to that because residents get firsthand information at a level that they can really use it. So they're not being moved around to a lot of different people, transferred, put on hold or anything else. They're getting direct information, and sometimes they have an issue in one area that transcends over to another area. Wright's able to help them there too.
Right, that's happened many times. Yeah.
And it makes the biggest difference. And again, you're making the big difference here in the city.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for doing that. And of course, like I said, we could be talking forever, but we do have other places to go. We'll get you back. I promise. I promise. Ray will have you back on, I promise.
Okay.
Wright actually needs his own program.
I know. We keep
we need to have a spin-off. We need a spin-off.
We will talk. Well, we'll be talking with all of you as well as we get Chris Anderson here just in a moment as we continue talking with Forest Park.
Join us for the Forest Park City Council meetings every first and third Monday on Time Warner Cable, Channel 23.
And welcome back. We have played a little hopscotch over here and got the table rearranged, and now with us joining Ray and myself, Chris Anderson. Glad you could join us.
Hi, Jason.
Of course, always bringing you in. We always love to hear what's going on within the city, being property-wise or other. And of course, you got a few things to bring up as well this year.
Sure. Yeah.
Summer always kind of gets out there, and especially last time we talked, we were trying to prepare for summer. Now we're getting into that summer, unfortunately, fall season that you're probably gunning up for, and property maintenance being a heavy hitter on that.
Yes, certainly. I mean, different things are different issues, during different seasons. So we're getting now, we're in a bit of a heat wave right now. Grass isn't growing so fast. That's not the kind of issue that it was in the spring.
Sure.
So we as a staff are spending less time on that. One thing going into the fall that we kind of prepared for back in June was we sent out some courtesy notices for painting.
Okay.
Because we wanted people to think about getting a head start on this before the fall, time crunch. And next thing you know, it's too cold to paint, and we're stuck with a violation. So we're going to be following back through those starting next month, and then giving a little more emphatic reminder. So that's on our agenda. Once the leaves start falling, our property maintenance program is not so much involved in that, other than one thing that people do need to be aware of is that, number one, you need to dispose of your leaves properly. You can do a couple different ways. One way is to just mow over them and let that go into the grass.
As Wright would tell you, it'd be the more
right. But you know,
way.
this is Forest Park, and we have a lot of trees, and
Sure.
there's certainly some yards, particularly in our older sections, like the C section, the F section, where there are many trees, smaller lots. It's overwhelming, and you got to do something. So you can compost those. You can bag them and put them out for rumpke. One thing that you can't do, though, is rake them to the curb or into the street.
Yeah.
We are not equipped to pick up leaves from the curb. We pick up brush, but we're not equipped to pick up leaves. And if they get into the street, they have a tendency to clog our storm drains, and that can cause other problems. So we let people know about that and follow up on those where people don't know about raking or blowing leaves into the street.
Of course, there's a lot of things that need to get to the community. However, I know with a smaller staff, speaking as well, how do you find that to manage to do this? I mean, we've got a very large city to tend to.
Right. Some of it's priorities, right? So we want to make sure that we take care of the things that are urgent, very quickly. If say we have a vacant property that gets cleaned out and the stuff's out at the curb, we want to get on that right away, because we don't want that people looking at that for a week or longer.
Right.
So that's always a priority. It's a matter of time management. We have 2 part-time inspectors, and we schedule them actually 6 days a week. So we do have that coverage. We have someone there every day. I'm out myself. That's why I'm in my polo shirt today. But and providing support for that, and there's always more than enough to do, but I do feel we're managing.
Sure. And you obviously feel the same way. I mean, because obviously that decision had to be made, with as many that had to be made,
Right.
cuts happen.
Well, definitely, property maintenance is one of those areas where we like to have a much larger staff, but we have to be very frugal with our limited resources, and Chris does a good job in overseeing the staff that we have, and as he mentioned, getting out of the office and getting in the field and lending a helping hand there too. So we do what we can to make sure that we cover the entire city.
And it probably helps you to be able to see what's going on, as opposed to always getting a memo or something from the department. You're actually out there as well, seeing it head on.
That's just part of being a good manager, and our city manager is out and about just
absolutely.
about every day. I know that.
Well, of course, not only do we have things of property maintenance going on, but there's some changes that have happened as well. The dog leash law actually has changed just a little bit.
Right. The requirement to keep a dog on a leash or contained in the yard, the particulars of that have not changed. So basically, if your dog is out and not contained in the backyard by either a fence or an invisible fence, then that dog needs to be on a leash. That hasn't changed. That's always been the case.
Sure.
What has changed, though, is we had it's a relatively light penalty because it's a minor misdemeanor. But we had an instance of an individual who essentially was repeatedly violating this and in a rather flagrant way. And well, it's one of those things that you discover sometimes when you're going through enforcement, is actually there's no escalation of the penalty for someone that's doing it multiple times, and that's a pretty usual thing code enforcement, law enforcement even.
Sure.
Where, second, third, fourth offense is a higher penalty. So we changed that section and changed it from a minor misdemeanor, which is just a fine, to a fourth-degree misdemeanor, which carries a potential of a higher fine up to $500, and even jail time up to 30 days. So that would need to be imposed by a judge.
Sure.
It's not some automatic thing, but that would happen on a third offense within a year's time.
Well,
so we're still trying to keep it reasonable. I mean, we're not in the words making this a federal crime.
No.
But we did recognize that for someone who is determined to not follow this, that penalty didn't have enough teeth.
That makes sense. And again, our pets are our family too, so you got to treat them just with as much courtesy as possible.
Well, but given that, keeping a dog under control, meaning a leash, is an important thing, because as we've seen elsewhere, in the city of Cincinnati, that can have some pretty dire consequences if a dog attacks.
Absolutely.
So it's important as a matter of public safety.
Well, again, trying to keep the city the way we want it to, and
Right.
But other ideas that are coming up, and trying to wrap down the hour here. Last time we had you on, we were talking about some great CMHA properties that are coming, and I'm not CMHA, but Habitat for Humanity. I had it right, and I knew it was going somewhere else. But yes, you had the Habitat homes that were in,
Right.
and other ideas with we were talking about, obviously, trends in foreclosure. What's going on with the city, and how is that happening? I mean, obviously, has the project started with the Habitat homes, and where are we with them?
Right. So two of the Habitat homes have started. They've been underway. Every time I've gone by there, I've seen people out working. So I think those are right on schedule. Those folks should be in their homes by this fall.
What a great Christmas present for them,
Yeah,
really.
I'll say. And on the foreclosure front, this is something that we've talked about with the city council, that the foreclosure trends they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, but overall they've been falling.
Okay.
So that's good news. I always provide my caveat with that I don't know that we're really out of the woods. Again, really as a country on this, but the trend is positive, and meaning
Yeah,
brighter
we're
days
seeing a
ahead.
brighter day than...
Yes, exactly. And following on that, though, we're still trying to deal with a few problem properties, particularly ones that have court procedures that seem to have stalled, or where the bank has walked away. And so we've still got a little bit of grant money for that. We're pursuing probably a few more demolitions before we conclude that phase of this.
Sure.
But I think it's important to note, and as Chris alluded to, we're tracking this daily, and certainly on a monthly basis we can see the trend going down. But roughly how many homes are we seeing now as foreclosure versus, say, a year ago? Because the number itself isn't that large, but for us it's important.
So this year that median number is 8 per month.
Okay.
Last year was 11. So
I mean, it has made a significant drop. I mean, that is, again...
Right. For a community like Forest Park, where we hate to see any foreclosure, that's
Absolutely.
important.
Right, and then I always say, to keep these numbers in context, is that we have approximately 5,500 single and two-family houses. So you're talking about 8 or 11 out of thousands of properties. But we'd really like that number to be 0.
Oh, I think everybody would,
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah.
again,
Right.
we're working towards that. I am sure of that.
Yeah.
And of course, on the home side, you can go to the flip side and take a look at what's going on commercially. How are we, again, I know that it's been a rocky road, but I'm sure that are we looking at a brighter future there as well?
I would say so. We're certainly our level of inquiries and people pulling permits and development, sort of due diligence work is way up of what it has been over the past couple of years. Just last month, we reviewed in the Planning Commission redevelopment of the Fuddruckers property, former Fuddruckers property, over at Chase Plaza by I-275.
And that's right off of Winton Road?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. Right next to Frisch's.
Sure.
Yeah, everyone knows. And the plan there is to actually divide that property, demolish the Fuddruckers, but divide the property and develop a KFC restaurant and a Taco Bell restaurant.
Two that are not in that area. That's a,
Yeah, and
it's a-
they're a decent fit for that area.
Sure.
That's certainly got a lot of a lunchtime crowd and traveling crowd, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
They actually will be sharing a parking lot, but they're going to be on two separate properties. That's something that a lot of people have asked, is it one building? No, it's actually two buildings. And then, of course, our largest employer, Meritas, their new building is under construction, and we've been following that pretty closely and working with them. In general, we've had inquiries for residential development.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's, again, nothing that we can say we're ready to put a shovel in the ground. But I do feel like we're working towards that, where if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said, let's talk about something else.
I was just going to say, that's exactly where I was going to go.
Right.
A year ago, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have probably even gone to that avenue of
Right.
discussion. And this is something that we're
Right.
finally thinking about again.
And we hear these things also from people that are in the real estate business, engineers, that kind of thing, that everyone seems to be pretty optimistic that things are picking up. So.
And it'd be nice to see the city kind of, again, we're recanoping, we maybe even seeing some new people coming in. That'd be great.
Yes.
And again, new business, new families. What a great way to bring in 2015, I'm saying. A nice way to start it.
All right.
Well, it's looking like we're running to the bottom of our time, but Ray, if there's anything that you'd like to make mention before we close out the evening, I would gladly throw the
Well,
microphone
we
your
covered
way.
a lot. I just want to thank Wright Gwyn and Chris Anderson for being with us and sharing this information. I think you can see there's just a tremendous amount of information that we could share, because there's a lot going on in the community, and we just encourage people to participate in the Forest Park e-news communications amongst themselves, to read our progress newsletter, and to check our website to try to keep up with some of these important things that are going on. But your program here certainly helps us bring that information directly to our residents.
And that's exactly what we want to do. So from that, I couldn't say it any better. So Ray, Chris, and of course Wright, thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to thank you for joining us as well. As you said, keeping informed in your community is what's going to make things progress. And I am Jason Grzegorek, Waycross Community Media's Government Access Coordinator, giving you the opportunity right here to talk with Forest Park. Have a great summer, and we'll see you next time.